Hello, Mr. Ed here, and today is March 3rd, 2025, and once again, today is a full work day. I've been out over by the honey house since 6:30 this morning, but now you see that right behind me? You see that? That right there is my partial shipment. In this shipment, I've got 300 frames, all triple coated, as well as 50 more boxes at the bottom of it. So this, like I said, is the partial shipment. And tomorrow the other part of the shipment comes in, which is 2 more pallets of frames, totaling up to about 2,000 frames that we purchased from Premier Bee Products. Look at that. Right there. I just love them guys. But what are we doing today? All of our equipment is used up, basically used up. I still have a few more boards, bottom boards, telescoping covers, and inner covers that are in the peacock pen, but they have to get cleaned up. In fact, I'm supposed to get 7 more of them today because these are hives that I've sold over the last 3 weeks, and they have to get cleaned up before I put them back outside. So in fact, I think today I'm supposed to get, like I said, 7 more today, and that'll give me a little bit wiggle room. But as far as boxes with drawn comb in it, that's basically history. I've got a few more over there, but those I'm setting up for the swarms. It's really old brood comb, and it's just ideal for the swarms that hopefully I'll be catching. And speaking of swarms, right now the count is Mr. Ed 7, the dirt rooster 4. 7, 4. So you know this is so early on, it ain't nothing. But right now I got a little lead on him. So today, what I have to do, I had about 35 boxes that I'd put out on our hives last year that the bees never drew comb on. And it's absolutely imperative that if you're going to put plastic foundation in your hive, that you need to have it wax coated. The bees just don't like the plastic, and unless you give something to them that they can work with, like waxed plastic foundation, they're just going to draw funny comb and wacky comb, or not any comb at all. Now you can feed your bees to get them to draw comb. Since I don't do any of that, I rely on the flows to, when the nectar flows are going, that the bees are getting the nectar, and that stimulates them to start building comb, as well as the foundation has the wax on it. So I rely heavily on that, and you know, in the past it's worked just fine for me. But if you get your supers on there too late in the flow, the bees just aren't going to draw it out, and that's the case that happened to these boxes right here. So for what I'm going to be doing today is taking those frames, and it's probably going to be about 300 of them, and applying wax to them. And I'm going to show you how I do that procedure. I have, later on this morning, I have Novice John. He'll be coming over to give me a hand for a couple hours to get this thing done. Good time Charlie, fishing. And so he's not here to help today, but that's okay. He needs a break every once in a while. But by the grace of God, we'll get these 30-something boxes done today, because tomorrow I got another job to do with swarms. So every day it's a job. Let's get into the kettle room right now, and I'll show you what I've got set up and what I plan on doing for the day. Morning, girls. Oh, good morning. How are y'all? Y'all want some maggots? Huh? Maybe I'll get some later on. So early this morning, it was still dark, and I went and I loaded up the trailer with all of the boxes that had the frames in them that were not drawn out. Let me first show you what that stuff basically looks like. So these are the boxes, and so you can see there is some wax on these things, but this, in my opinion, it's not enough. It's not fresh enough to get the bees to draw it out. So they're going to get dipped into the wax. You know, I'm thinking, looking at this one right here, it actually looks pretty good. Let me see if I can find one that's not so good, because these are actually pretty good. There's enough foundation on this stuff. They'll go ahead and draw that stuff out. Some of them, I guess I won't have to. Let's see what this one is looking like. Now this is a real good example. This is old wax foundation that I did last year. So this one will get another coating on it. And it is a lot of boxes to go through, but you know, it's just work. And let me show you what we got over here. This is the blocks of wax that I'm going to be using. And these two blocks right here are the ones that I did the video on last week. This one is a 13-pound block. This one is a 20-pound block. And then to that, I'm going to add another 15-pound block and a 9-pound block. So I don't know, I didn't add all that stuff up, but it's a lot of wax. And all of that is going to go into the kettle right there. In fact, let me go ahead and start getting that kettle warmed up, because we're going to need to have this stuff operational when John gets here. Normally, when I do the rendering of the wax blocks, or just beeswax, I'm not really particular about the cleanliness of the interior of the kettle, but in this case I want to get it as clean as I possibly can, because any of that trash that's in the kettle will then get on the wax, and then that trash will then get on the foundation, and I don't want that. So this is what I'm looking at right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all that wax, 55 pounds of it, and I'm going to put it inside of the kettle. And then because I had to fill the kettle so high, and I'll show you why later, but because I have to fill the kettle so high, I actually bring the hose out here to fill it instead of just buckets. Usually it's just 3 to 5 gallons. Well, this time we're going to have to put about 20 gallons of water in here to float all that wax. Let me get the wax blocks in here, and I'll show you what that looks like after they're in there. All of our blocks are in there, and I can see, look at this, the kettle's on, so it's hot already, and the wax is already mixing. But I need to add water to this mix to get the wax to float on it in order for me to get this wax on the foundation. So I'm going to take my hose and I'm going to fill the kettle up right now. As promised, look who's here. Novice John. You ready to work?
Right on time. Oh yes.
Oh yeah. What you know what we're going to do today?
I think we're going to render some wax.
No, we're not going to render wax. We're going to apply wax to foundation.
Okay.
You'll be a learning experience.
Awesome. Let's do it.
And then the kettle is now full of water, and you can see the stuff that looks like scrambled eggs. That was the wax that was already melting in the bottom of the kettle. Look at that beautiful color. Isn't that beautiful? And as the cold water hit it, it just solidified. So this is going to take a while to get down to completely liquefied state. And while it is doing that, Novice John and I are going to be preparing our foundations, taking them out of the frames and getting them ready for this process. So back in the early days of Abby Honey, when we were looking for sponsorships to get the program off the ground, we came up with the idea of having 3 levels of sponsorship. Queen, Worker, and Drone. The Queen, you became a Queen sponsor. You got your name on a plaque like this, and you also got your name on a bottle of honey for the entire year. If you were a worker, you got a label like this on the box. This is my buddy Robert Bro up in Arkansas, what is that place? Right by Eureka Springs. And you got your label on the box for worker and your name on a bottle for the entire year. And then the drone sponsorship was also, you just got your label on a box. Now we still do have the sponsorship of Abbey Honey, but we no longer put labels or plaques on our beehives because our hives are spread out so far. In the early days, when all of our hives were here, it was easy to see all this stuff. But now we just have a board that it still hasn't up in the honey house, but it's going to be up there one of these days. So let's check on our wax. Oh man, it's cooking in there, but it is not ready. We're almost ready, and I think I'm gonna drain out some of that water because there's too much. It's too hot. Let me drain out some of that water. Now it may appear that, if we could see, may appear that our wax is all melted, but if I stick my stick in here, look at that, there's a big old block right here. Anyway, there's still solid wax in there. So it's still not done yet. It's still got to do a lot more cooking, and I can't get that block up there. There you go, you see it? Let's see if I can do that one more time. Nope, I ain't gonna do it. It's not coming up. Wait, there it is, there you go. So we still got some blocks in there that need to come down a little bit, so still got to cook. So I have a serious question I need to ask you. Now, how many of you all out there, when you start your day, you have all these grand plans of, man, it's just going to go this way, it's just going to go this way, and man, by the end of the day, it'll be over with, it'll be a piece of cake. You know, because that's how I always look at things. It's going to be a good thing. It won't take any time at all to do it, and we'll be finished with lots of time, be able to go eat lunch, maybe even take a nap. It just never turns out that way. So it is now 2:30. I've been out here since 6:15 this morning, trying to get all this stuff done, and well, I did pretty good, but not as much as I had hoped to. So let me show you, grab the camera and show you what we got done today. Well, let me begin by showing you that one thing that is ready to go is our wax. Look how beautiful that is. Unfortunately, we're not even going to be using it today. Tomorrow morning, when I come here, it's going to be a big, beautiful yellow block of wax that we'll be able to admire. But I'd rather admire it on the frames than in the kettle. Let me show you what the work that we got done. Here are all the frames that had to be removed from the boxes, cleaned, brushed down, and then stored on here on the trail, and then on the back of the shop we've got, John has put his over there. The frames are now ready to have the foundation once they're dipped to be placed in them. All of our boxes have been cleaned and they are ready to receive the frames, and here are our foundations, all of these foundations. So this is what is going to be dipped tomorrow. Some of our frames on the bottom, these were frames that it wasn't going to be necessary to dip them, and I'll kind of space these out 1 or 2 per box, and the bees will draw that stuff out. It just wasn't worth scraping the wax that was built out on them off just to redip them, because they will draw those out for sure. But that is a lot of foundation to dip. It's close to 300, that's for sure. And then tomorrow, this is how after I dip the foundations, this is where they'll dry for 10 minutes or so, and then placed into the frames and then placed into the box. So even though I never accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish today, I certainly did a good portion of it. I would say the lion's share of it. And so tomorrow, I'm not going to be so pressed to get it done. It should go pretty easy. So first thing tomorrow morning, I'll get that wax melted down and the process will begin. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Well, good morning. Now, who's ready to see what a 55-pound block of wax will look like? Let's take a look and see what that, ooh, look how pretty that is. Let's fire up the kettle, and by the time prayer is over this morning, this stuff will start to get melted at least. See you in a little bit. It's been about, I guess, an hour since I turned the kettle on, and yeah, as you can see, it is boiling, but oh, look at that, there's nothing in there. So that whole 55-pound block of wax has been melted. However, the water level, or the level of liquid in the tank, is right here, and it really needs to come up to about right there in order for me to dip these foundations into. So I'm going to have to add some water to this, and then that's going to, of course, solidify some of that wax, so it's going to take us a little bit longer. But let me go ahead and add the water to it right now. And now I've added the water to the tank, to the wax, to get that level of liquid up high enough. And of course, when you put in that cold water, some of that wax is going to solidify, so now we just have to wait till the water heats up again, and then that wax melts. But while that's happening, I want to show you one of the main reasons for waxing your foundation. And you remember I said that bees do not like this plastic. They just don't like it. And unless you wax this foundation, they're either not going to draw a comb on it, or they're going to draw a comb like this. So where you can see they just make this weird comb, and it's just like it's nothing, and it's just a mess. You'll open up your hive and you'll see a bunch of this kind of comb in there reaching over to the other frame, and it's just a mess. Or even worse than that, and this is a real sign of they don't like the wax unless the foundation is waxed, they will build the comb actually off of the foundation. Can you see that? I mean, that's literally a ½ an inch off of the face of the foundation. So these, when you wax the foundation, then the bees draw the comb right onto the foundation, and these issues are not present. So as soon as that wax over there gets heated up, we are going to start the process. Before we do that, let me show you. Now, years ago, let me show you what I used to do years ago. Now, I've got videos back 7 or 8 years ago when the operation was not as large as it is right now in its infant stages, when we had, I don't know, 10, 12, 18 hives, something like that. And in those days when I didn't have a kettle, I used simply a crock pot. I get a crock pot and melt my wax in it. I'd buy wax because I didn't have any, so I had to buy it, and I'd melt the wax in the crock pot, and I would use a 4-inch foam roller. That's what I would use. I take my foundation, I dip my foam roller into my crock pot with the wax on it, and then I would simply apply it to the foundation like that, turn it over, dip it again, and apply it like that. And it worked really, really well for a lot of times when I didn't have a whole bunch of hives. You can use a foam roller or even a paintbrush. I always like the foam roller because it applies a lot easier than a paintbrush, but either one works in a pinch. But if I was to choose between the two of these, I'd always take the foam roller. It's a little bit more controlled mess using the roller as opposed to that brush. And the problem using the rollers or the brush is how quickly the wax dries up as you're applying it, and which is one of the advantages that I have using the tank, because in the tank I simply dip the whole thing and it's all applied at the same time. So a few more minutes and I think we'll be able to start dipping some foundation. Alright, our water is boiling, so I don't need it to be boiling. So at this point I'm turning the fire off because I really don't want it to boil. Well, I'm putting my hand in there. The fact that the kettle is jacketed, it retains heat for a very long time, especially when we've got 30 gallons of boiling liquid in there. It will stay hot for a very long time. So that's a very good thing. So at this point, I am now ready, finally, after all this time, to get our first piece of foundation dip. And because of our tank, the depth of our tank, you can see the depth of your frame. So we have to dip that thing down pretty good, which is why I have to get the level of liquid up so high. Now, there is a lot of water in here, but we only have about 5 inches, I'm guessing about 5 inches a layer of wax. So as I take my foundation, I sink it into the water wax to this point right here. And so as the foundation goes through the wax and into the water, as I lift it out, the water repels, and since it's heavier than the wax, it falls off and then the wax will replace it. And so it comes up completely waxed. So that's the idea of why this is such a fast way of putting wax on foundation. So this year, for the first time, I'm using a little pair of vice grips to hold my foundation. I used to hold it with my 2 fingertips and burn my fingertips a lot. So we're going to try it this way first. So I simply submerge all the way. Now you see I stay up about 1/2 inch with the liquid. I come out and shake it. And that's it. I want to get as much of that wax off as I can, and then it's going to start drying. So then we're going to go ahead and just set it down on our cooling rack, because it's going to take several minutes for that to cool down. And then we just do the process again. And so now, if you come watch over here, you can see how much wax has been applied to the foundation, even though we can't see it initially, but as the foundation cools, then you can see how coated these foundations are with wax. And they start out pretty wet, but give them a few minutes and they dry out really nice. So now I'm going to show you exactly what I do once the foundations are cooled off enough, and I'll put them in a frame. So the process of putting the foundation back into the frame is very simple, and I'm sure everybody's done it 100,000 times. But you're just going to take the bottom edge of your frame, and I use the edge that I dipped into it because the edge on the frame is pretty wide. You shove that into your space right there. And just a little bit of manipulation. And look at that. Now smell it, smell it. I'll do one more. And what I'll be doing is I'll lay out an entire, all those sticks, I'll lay those completely out, and then once they're laid out, then I'll go ahead and start putting the foundation in the frame. But I just want to show you all the process of doing it. And this is really no challenge, even I can do it. So look at that. That is sweet. All right, so a lot of work ahead of me, and I thought I was going to get all this done yesterday, so by the grace of God, I will get it done today. So I'll show you what it all looks like when I'm finished. I just finished the first full load of foundations and letting them set out to dry, and I just had to show you how pretty that is. Oh my goodness, that is just spectacular. The bees, if you could smell the room right here, oh, it's just a wonderful smell. The bees are going to jump on this stuff and just draw it out so quickly. Ah, thank you, Jesus. Whew. All right, let me set all this stuff over there, and I'm going to start loading it up into frames, putting it in the boxes. It was another long day in the kettle room, putting that wax on that foundation. But the great news is that I got it all done. And on the trailer, I've got 36 boxes of foundation that is newly waxed. That's 360 frames that I dipped today, as well as behind me I've got 30 medium foundations back there as well. That's for a friend of mine. So since I'm waxing it, I'd say, well, let me go ahead and throw those things in there for him. But I want to show you the kettle and just how much wax that I've used to do this. And here's the level of the wax now in the kettle. Because when we started, the level in the tank was about 1 inch from the top right here, and now it's a good 3.5 inches below that right now. So that is all wax that we used. And I don't know if the camera can show it, but I can see about 1 inch below the wax on the surface, there's all this cloudy stuff. There, you see that? All this cloudy stuff that's floating on top of the water and below the wax. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to drain the tank, and I'm going to capture my wax, and then come tomorrow we'll find out just how many pounds of wax we used to put on this foundation. Not a very good judge on how much bucket space I need, because I filled that one up and we only had a little bit left in there, but I did not want that to overrun at all. And here is the crud that's left on inside the tank. So all this will stay just as it is right now, and then tomorrow morning I'll come show you the blocks of wax, weigh them out, and then we'll close the video up tomorrow. See you in the morning. And after taking our buckets, after they cooled last night, and dumping them out, these are the 2 blocks of wax that I pulled out of there. Not bad looking. But remember, we started this whole operation with about 57 pounds. We had 33 pounds from the first blocks that the video that I did 2 weeks ago, and then I added another 15-pound block to it and another 9-pound block to it. So that totaled out to right around 57 pounds. So we started out with 57 pounds of wax, and when I weighed these 2 blocks, they totaled out 12 pounds, about 12 pounds. So I need my computer. I need to figure exactly what we did. So we started out with 57 pounds, and then from that, because we had 12 pounds that we had left, minus 12 equals, so we used 45 pounds of wax to coat our frames. Now, even though that's 360 frames in those boxes, not all of those frames were coated. They weren't all dipped because some of them, the comb was good enough where I could just drop the frames back in. We can use them again. So about 300 frames is probably a good number that I've used. So if I take my number, we used 45 pounds, and we got to multiply that by 16, because I think that's how many ounces are in a pound. That equals 720 ounces of wax that we used. And then we're going to divide that by 300. So it averaged out per frame 2.4 ounces of wax per frame. That, to me, that is a lot of wax. But it's okay with me if it's a lot of wax. The bees, if they don't need it to draw on that frame, they can move it around to wherever they need it. But to me, it's always a good thing, because in my mind, it takes, from what I've been told, 7 pounds of honey to produce 1 pound of wax. So for every pound of wax I'm giving them, that's actually creating 7 pounds of honey for me. So, you know, that's a pretty good trade-off in my book. So the job is all done. Our foundations are now heavily coated with wax, and these boxes will now, the next step for these boxes will be going on to our boxes, either as honey supers or as brood boxes for the splits that we're making. A pretty tough job, but I was thinking about it yesterday as well. It's probably saved me over $1,000 doing all this work myself instead of buying new frames and foundation. So, you know, that's money well saved in my book. So that's all I got for you in this one. Thanks for watching. Keep on watching, and I will be making more. God bless, Mr. Red. I'm out here until the next video.